What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Ance back again here today. And with the Team Affinity release this last week, I've gotten a chance to complete the program. If you want to know how I completed all of Team Affinity so fast, be sure to click this link up at the top right now. But I've had my chance to use all the cards now. So we're back again with our Team Affinity Season 3 ranking video. We're going to be doing a little bit different. With Season 2, we just ranked them straight 30 to 1. This time, we're going to be breaking them down into tiers, as really at the end of the day, the difference between maybe the third best player in Team Affinity and who I think is the best is very, very minimal. And I think it makes a lot more sense to break them down as tiers, both for those top players and kind of some of those bottom players as well. So let's hop into it. The players within these tiers is going to be in no particular order within the tiers, just simply broken down by tiers. If you like this video, you want to see more of this type of content, definitely be sure to leave a like and subscribe. 800 subs, give or take, away from 20K on the channel. I know y'all can make it happen. If you're watching this video right now, you're not subbed, press the sub button. Let's get to 20K. Let's hop into the video. Starting out with the D tier, the first card that we have is Carlos Rodon. He's certainly not bad by any measure. I mean, he's got really good per nines, but the control for me lacks something a little bit to be desired. There's a lot of lefty pitchers in the game as well, and his pitch mix isn't spectacular. Four-seam slider, changeup, curveball, and a two-seamer. I don't necessarily love it. I think there's better pitches out there, especially when he doesn't have much control on his off speed. I think for that reason, Rodon, he does slot in our D tier, even with his really good per nine numbers. Next one we're looking at here in the D tier is Michael Brantley. Got really great contact, but not a lot of power. We all know power reigns supreme a lot of the times in this game. His fielding is not bad at an 83, but only a 60 arm, and he's slow. I see him not being an asset in the outfield, not really an asset offensively, especially a high contact, low speed guy. It's just not a combo that plays really well in this game at all. So Brantley comes in here, slots in here with the D tier. Keeping it in the D tier, very similar to Rodon. Decent hit per nines, but not a lot of control here for Trevor Rogers. And he doesn't have a good pitch mix either. Four-seam, changeup, slider, two-seam. Not too many crazy effective pitches. His per nine is actually a little bit worse than Rodon, and he doesn't have great control as well. Well, he does have 99 break, and I think that could definitely help him. I think overall the lack of control without any meta pitches really leaves Trevor Rogers a little lacking that something to put him over the edge. JT Realmuto also sliding in here D tier. Honestly, if only by virtue of the fact that we just got this playoff JT Realmuto that is legitimately, you can look at the stats right here, look at the changes. It is the exact same card as the Team Affinity one, but just better versus lefties. And so this Realmuto ends up being such a better card that there's really no reason to use the Team Affinity Realmuto, of course, other than the fact that this one's 83K naturally, as they've been soaring up in price, these cards right here. Another side note, but I think with the fact that that other one is immediately so much better, and there's some other catchers within Team Affinity 3 that are also really good. He's lacking versus lefties this card. Even with the elite defense, he just doesn't get the job done for me, and I think there's a lot of better options. So JT Realmuto slots in here with the D tier. Now, in terms of just catchers overall, I love that other JT Realmuto though. So not necessarily that I don't like JT Realmuto. I just really love that better version that he just got. That is also relatively obtainable. Last card here in the D tier, it's German Marquez. The 83 Ks for 9 without a whole lot of control just makes it a very, very hittable card. German Marquez also has a delivery that's very easy to pick up. If you've played any showdowns and you went against German Marquez, very, very easy card to pick up. He's got the four-seam slider, knuckle curve, sinker, changeup, so he does come in with the sinker. He does have that going for him, which is nice. That helps him out a little bit, but I don't think it makes up for the lack of per nines and the overall lack of control. I think it's just a card that opponents are going to have big PCIs against, and you're going to be struggling locating. That is generally not a good combination for solid results on the mound. Our first card up here in the C tier, it is Kevin Gausman. I almost thought about putting him down into D, but he does have the 115 hits per 9, Ks per 9, not great, but the 89 walks per 9. He has a little bit more control on his pitches than some of those pitchers down in the tier below. So Kevin Gausman slots in at the C tier. I don't think any of the pitchers we mentioned so far, though, are really going to find much use in your rotation. Maybe for a couple spots here and there, maybe at the back end of your rotation, but overall, I think there's better options across the board starting pitcher wise. However, use Kevin Gausman a little bit. He wasn't too bad. Didn't impress me too terribly much though. Maybe a little spicy one with this one. I'm putting Teoscar in the C tier. Something about that power versus right just throws me off. He crushes lefties. He absolutely does. And he has an okay swing. I know a lot of people love his swing for whatever reason. I just haven't been able to get it down yet. The 71 fielding as well. I don't love that fielding. I like guys who field a little bit better. He does have a decent amount of speed. He's certainly a good card. I know a lot of people love Teoscar Hernandez. Personally, for me, though, when I've been using him, he just hasn't been playing to the level that I expected to. And I think there's some better outfield options within the Team Affinity program. Staying in the C tier as well, it's J-Ram. He may be moving up into the B tier when it's all said and done. And I mean, I am batting 382 with him with 1100 OPS so far. I've been playing well, but that contact versus right and power versus left is a little off-putting. He doesn't have great defense either. I'm going to keep rocking with J-Ram 100%. He does have the positional flexibility. Consider this like a C+, B- type card. I don't know if I could firmly put him in the B tier, but I have somewhat enjoyed him using him so far. I feel like maybe I've gotten a little bit lucky with some of my hits, so I'm going to keep rocking with him, see if we can parallel him up a little bit, how that will impact how he's playing. I do like his swing. I like his positional flexibility. I want to love J-Ram. I'm just not quite there yet. Also coming in here with the C tier is Jared Walsh. With how many first basemen we have in this game right now, you got Vladdy, you got Pete Mancini, Big Papi, Prince Fielder. I just don't envision a real way for you to use Jared Walsh with his 52 contacts versus lefty. Obviously, if that was a higher number, he's absolutely insane. He's incredible. I think he's very usable. But the 52 contacts left make him nothing more than a bench bat, maybe a platoon first baseman. But there's so many good first basemen who can do both things. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to platoon at that position. So for me, that 52 contact left, that cuts off Jared Walsh for me. He stays in here with our C tier. Keeping in the AL West, Kikuchi also comes in here with the C tier. Not great hits per 9 either, but at least he does have the cutter, four seam, slider, changeup. I don't hate those pitches. He's got the cutter. He's got a decent amount of control on the cutter, a lot of control on the changeup as well, with a lot of break too. So I think his changeup will play pretty well. I think he has solid per 9s. He at least has that cutter, which I love throwing cutters this year. So Kikuchi, again, I think there's way better options pitching wise. You'll find better pitchers in this game, but I think it's better than some of the other pitchers we've had here in Team Affinity 3. Next up, we got Craig Kimbrell. He's essentially a two-pitch pitcher with the four seam and the knuckle curve. Two seams aren't great in this game, and he has 50 control on his two seamer. You're not gonna be able to locate that to save your life. Obviously maxed out per 9s, 125 hits, 125 Ks. He's got a bit of a funky delivery. He's nasty in that regard, but I don't think I can justify using a four seam knuckle curve only pitcher in my bullpen. I need a little bit more effectiveness in that. If I'm hitting against Kimbrell, I'm sitting on the four seamer. I'm waiting to crush that pitch, and as soon as it's hung out over the plate, it's being sent absolutely yard. Obviously, small PCIs, it's going to be tough to make that contact with it, but I just don't think you're going to be able to effectively mix up your pitches enough with Craig Kimbrell to really get those outs that you're looking for. So he slots in here with the C tier. Adam Frazier sticking in the C as well. He's got the positional flexibility, which is great. He has the fielding, which is awesome. I definitely think he's a very good card. But for me, the lack of power is just not going to play. I need that power in my lineup. And if I am going to be rocking some contact hitters, I'm going to be having some that are very, very fast as well. So 56 speed for a contact hitter, not quite what I'm looking for. I think the positional flexibility and better defense puts him over another contact hitter like Brantley, but not too much higher ranked in this program. Moving on to the B tier. These are guys that I'm using. They're making my squad at times. They're making my bench. Guys that I'm really kind of starting to rock with. Chris Taylor. I like his swing a lot. Like it a little bit versus righties, but he has a really sweet swing. Crushing lefties. Positional flexibility. Second base, third base, shortstop, left field, right field. 78 speed, 87 fielding. He's got the defense. He's got the speed. He can hit for power. Lacks a little bit versus righties, but a really solid bench bat with that positional flexibility and how good he is defensively, along with that really awesome swing. I like Chris Taylor a ton. Also slotting in the B, Jake Cronenworth, second, first, third, shortstop positional flexibility. He's got the 83 speed, the fielding, and can hit relatively well. The power versus lefties is obviously a little disappointing. He's going to hit righties pretty well. At least he does have that contact to boost him up versus lefties, and he has 83 speed. So that'll help carry him to some degree with solid fielding as well. I like Jake Cronenworth a lot. I think he's really solid. Next one we're looking at, Rafael Devers. He's on my bench right now. I love his swing. One of the best swings in the game, in my opinion. Obviously lacking a little bit versus lefties. That's what keeps him from being out of that A tier or that S tier in terms of players. They did do him pretty well on the defense. 75 fielding, 91 arm. That is very playable at third base. And he's going to demolish righties. We're kind of running into a righty meta with pitchers. Lots of really good righties in the game. Shohei, DeGrom, Edward Cabrera. Those are probably the three best pitchers in this game. They're all righties. So Devers is going to play really well against those guys. Could be a really solid platoon option, bench bat kind of guy. Next one we're looking at, Mike Zunino. Another guy. Good swing. He's got maxed out power both sides of the plate and 118 contact left. He's going to dominate lefties. He has really good fielding as well. This is the perfect type of guy to platoon at catcher. Platoon him with somebody like Kyle Schwarber. You can bring in Zunino late in the game when you want a little bit better defense, or if you're facing a lefty, you can bring in Zunino instead of Schwarber, and Zunino's going to absolutely rock their world, similar to how Schwarber does versus righty. So I really like the platoon ability of this card. Really good swing, really good defense. I like a lot of things happening here with this Mike Zunino. Next, we're looking at the Tigers. It's Gregory Soto. We kind of had a feeling this card was going to be nasty. He is pretty nasty. Per nines, 123 hits, 113 Ks. Sinker, slider, four-seam, changeup, all really solid pitches. He's got that primary sinker that plays really well. He lacks a little bit of control. That's the only thing from keeping him from being in those next tiers, is he does just slightly lack some control that I'd like to see. But so far when using him, I've been pretty dominant at 4.5 ERA. But so far when using him, I've been pretty dominant. Been liking Gregory Soto a lot. He's definitely sticking in my bullpen for some time. Next one we're looking at here, Nelson Cruz. I love his swing. He demolishes lefties. This is like an end game. He's staying on your squad bench bat wise for the rest of the season. Nelson Cruz, he just hits tanks. He touches the ball. It flies off the bat. I like this Nelson Cruz a lot. He's on my bench right now. He's not going anywhere for the rest of the year, most likely. And that alone provides a ton of value. So I push him up into the B tier. A little bit lack of fielding. If you want to rock him out there with 52 fielding in right field, go for it. He has the arm to play, but be prepared for a lot of fielding errors. As a Rangers fan, y'all know I had to be rocking with my boy Adolis. He's coming in here with the B tier. He crushes the ball, really good power both sides, 91 contact versus left, a little lacking, but at least it's with his handedness matchup side, so a little bit easier to pick up the ball there. He does lack slightly on the fielding, 75 fielding, but 87 speed to make up for that. Once that parallels up as well, he's going to be really tracking down a lot of balls out there in center field. I think he's going to be really good defensively, and he'll have max power versus right, almost max versus left, really good contact both ways. I love his swing too. I've been a really big fan of Adolis so far. He's my boy. I'm a Rangers fan. Y'all know I had to be rocking with him. One of my other favorite players in the league as well. It's Ozzy. Y'all know I'm rocking with Ozzy. Ozzy's going to be high up on this list. He's our last guy here in the B tier. Destroys lefties. Absolutely demolishes them. Needs a little bit more work versus righties. Hopefully when we parallel him up some, he can do a little bit better versus righties. But the switch hitter, he's always going to have that hand in this matchup. 83 fielding. He's got some solid speed. Really good all around. Absolutely crushes lefties. And he's a switch hitter. I love switch hitters. You know I had to have my boy Ozzy up here. One of my absolute favorite players in the league. I think one of the most underrated players in the league. I'm glad to see him getting this sick card this year. He's locking down second base for me right now. And he wraps up our B tier here on these Team Affinity 3 rankings. Starting out our A tier, it's Cedric Mullins. Hitting, the contact, some solid power, a little bit lacking power versus lefties, but he makes up for that with a swing that plays above his attribute. 78 fielding and center is a little bit lacking, but the 85 speed does make up for a lot of that, as he does get to a lot of stuff, tracks down a lot of balls. Cedric Mullins, one of the most popular cards so far from Team Affinity 3. We take a look at the stats. Only a couple of games, batting 467, 1700 OPS. I like this Cedric Mullins a lot. I'm rocking with him. I'm gonna have to find some way to get him some more playing time in my outfield, because he is a sweet card. Next, we're rocking with Sal Perez. I love Salvador Perez cards. They're always one of my favorites. He was my favorite catcher last year from that finest card. 125 contact and power versus lefties. Another guy you could platoon with somebody like a Kyle Schwarber. He crushes them, and he holds his own versus righties. 93 and 90. You can parallel that up. It's going to play very well. Defensively, he's holding his own. 79 blocking, 80 fielding, 80 arm. Really solid fielding numbers across the board. Only thing he really lacks is that speed, but from the catcher position, you're not expecting someone too terribly quick. I like Salvador Perez a lot. One of my favorite catchers in the game every single year. He's locking down our A tier in this Team Affinity rankings. Next guy we rocking with, Matt Olson, baby. Yes, sir. I wish he would have had a little bit more power, but he does have solid power, solid contact. He's got the fielding. Although, if there's one thing I haven't liked about this Matt Olson card, he's been making some defensive errors for me, but that's okay. If you know about Matt Olson's swing, he has an incredible swing. Take a look at the stats. 20 games, a lot of those on Hall of Fame, batting 474, 1600 OPS, 18 hits, 9 home runs. This Matt Olson is pretty nutty. He's a little slow. That's the only thing he doesn't have going for him. But hey, speed doesn't matter when you're jogging around the bases after a home run. I still love this Matt Olson, even with the plethora of first basemen we've had added to the game in the last few weeks. One of the cards that has surprised me the most from this Team Affinity is Nick Castellanos. I've been really impressed by his swing. The ball flies off the bat. His fielding solid as well. He's got some speed to go along with it. Can play right, first, third, left. He can hold down any of those positions with the 70 fielding, especially paralleled up a little bit. And his offensive stats are pretty insane. He has that nice 125 contact both ways. So if you're playing on Hall of Fame or Legend, you're going to have a little bit bigger PCI to work with and enough power to still hit the ball really well. Again, pretty much all on Hall of Fame. Batting a firm 313, 1250 OPS. I've been really impressed how much I enjoyed this Castellanos so far. He is firmly in the A tier for me. Next guy we're looking at here, it's Josh Hader. So many people are already using live series Hader as soon as he got that change up. This all-star Hader, no different. 4-seam slider, change up 2-seam, maxed out per 9s. He lacks a little bit on the control, but honestly, I've not had many issues controlling pitches with him in the slightest. Be prepared to essentially see this Josh Hader for the rest of the year. Maybe we get some more insane lefties later on, but I think it's going to be difficult for many cards to replace this Josh Hader as the year goes on. He's going to be holding down a lefty spot in my bullpen for quite some time. Our last one in the A tier, it's Eduardo Escobar. I wish he had a little bit more contact, but switch hitting, some nice defense, a little bit of speed, first, second, short, left, right, third base positional eligibility, along with that power, switch hitter, nice swing. He just kind of does it all. He kind of locks everything down. I'm a huge fan of Eduardo Escobar. One of the best swings in the game. Nice, quick swing, and he's a switch hitter. I am a huge fan of him. He's locking down a spot in my infield right now, and he wraps up our A tier in these rankings. Now, here we are to the S tier, our final tier, our top rankings for these Team Affinity 3, the cards that are firmly in my starting lineup. I don't think I'm going anywhere with them for quite some time. First off, one of the more surprising ones I've had so far is Aaron Judge. I usually don't like his long swing, his big strike zone, but I am loving this Aaron Judge. He's just been coming through for me. 99 fielding, of course. He's going to catch every single ball out in right field. 104 power versus righties, 125 versus lefties, 114 contact versus lefties, 90 power versus right. Could be a little higher. Take a look at the stats. 27 games. A lot of this on Hall of Fame. He's batting 500 with a 1600 OPS. Dude has been demolishing the ball for me. I love this card. He might be my very favorite card in Team Affinity 3 so far. Next one, This one was an obvious S tier one. It's the Grom. He's pretty insane. He even has the hitting attributes as well. He's got the 4-seam slider, changeup, curveball, 2-seam. Per 9's almost maxed out. He's got the control. He's got the break. He has everything you want in a starter. Be expecting to see a lot of this DeGrom as the year goes on. I don't know if he's going to be leaving rotations for some time. One of the best pitchers from last year's game. 99 back now again in this year's game. He's not going anywhere for me. Next one we're looking at here, all I'm going to say out the gate, if you haven't given this card much of a shot, put him in your lineup. Trey Turner. He's locking down center field for me right now. He replaced Buxton in center. That 99 speed, he really gets to and tracks down everything. Obviously, the fielding, not quite as good, especially when you take the secondary penalty in center field. But so far, I've had 0 issues as well. And he has a swing that plays well above his attributes that are already really good. Really good contact, 100 power versus righties, 86 power versus lefties, but a swing that plays above it again. A lot of this on Hall of Fame, 13 games, 538 batting average, 1600 OPS. This Trey Turner is 100% insane. If you haven't used him, you need to add him to your squad somewhere, some way, short, second, third, center, doesn't matter. You need him on your team. The last card in these rankings, our final S tier card, it's Alex Reyes. Expect to essentially see this card for what might be the rest of the year. He is insane. 125 hits per 9, 115 Ks per 9. Honestly, 45 stamina for a reliever. Pretty solid as well. Another pitcher who lacks a little bit in control, but so far when using him, I haven't noticed that lack of control in the sliders. He throws a 4-seam, a sinker, slider, a 12 curve, and a changeup. All the pitches. He has incredible velocity as well. This Alex Reyes, very hard to pick up, very hard to hit, very usable, and of course has the outlier on the sinker as well. Alex Reyes is going to be a card you're going to be seeing a lot of. Hopefully we can learn to hit him, because right now I absolutely cannot touch him. He's firmly in the S tier. So that does do it for our tier list rankings of Team Affinity 3 and MLB The Show 21. I'm sure there's a lot that you disagree with. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Who am I overrating? Who am I underrating? Let's have a chat about it. Who do I maybe need to give a second look at? Maybe use some more? Hit me up in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. As always, you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, I'll catch y'all around.